Nobody was anywhere near her. The ball was in her hands. There wasn't a defender within 10 feet. No contact, nothing at all. Then her knee suddenly gave out on a wide-open layup. That's the picture you need to keep in your mind. Because just 48 hours before that knee hit the floor, Angel Reese was standing in front of the cameras complaining after a coach called her a protected species. Less than 2 days. That's all it took to go from playing the victim to becoming the biggest talking point. We're going to go through the entire story. The elbow that started it, the outrage that followed, the coach who got suspended for nothing, and then this moment. Call it what you want, but many people are calling it instant karma. And this time, nobody even had to lay a finger on her. What do you think about Angel Reese's antics? Let me know in the comments below. Let's go back to July 17th. It was the dream against the Toronto Tempo, with Nyara Sabally guarding Angel Reese in the paint. Reese caught the ball, but instead of going up clean for the shot, she lowered her shoulder and drove straight through Sabally like a fullback charging through the defensive line. Sabally crashed to the floor, grabbing her ribs, and for a moment the entire arena went silent as everyone waited to see if she was okay. Now here's the thing. The officials ruled that Sabally had legal guarding position, which is just a formal way of saying she was exactly where she was supposed to be and still got run over. Nobody watching the play claimed Reese did it on purpose, and nobody accused her of trying to injure anyone. It simply looked like a hard, physical, and somewhat reckless play that can happen in a fast-paced game. But Sabally didn't get up easily. She walked off the court holding her side and could barely make it to the bench. This was a player who had done nothing wrong on the play. She was in the correct position, played solid defense, and still ended up getting hurt because Reese chose to go straight through her instead of trying to get around her.
To kind of get a rhythm here tonight. So it will not be quite not established there. That's a good look there of it, not quite planted.
Sabally, by the way, still on the floor.
Sandy Brondello, the Tempo's head coach, was standing on the sideline watching one of her players get run over, and she completely lost her patience. Not with Reese, but with the referees. She was furious about the no call, and in the middle of that frustration, she said Reese was a protected species. That comment was directed at the officials, not at Sabally, not at Reese personally, and not at anyone's race. It was simply a frustrated coach reacting after watching her player get hurt without a whistle being blown.
Now, people with an average IQ understand that what Sandy said about protected species, there was no malice in that at all, right? When Australian players criticize other Australian players, or just athletes in general, especially in rugby, when they say protected species, what they mean is you're getting protected by the refs. Right? Just think about Australia and protected species, like actual species. You understand what's going on there. It makes sense. But people with an average IQ also understand that being in the league like the WNBA, which, let's be honest, a lot of lunatics in there, right?
And if you know sports slang, you know exactly what that phrase means. It's commonly used in Australian sports and in many other countries. It simply means a player gets the benefit of the doubt from the referees almost every time. Soccer commentators have used that same phrase about Lionel Messi countless times, and nobody thinks twice about it. It's basically a compliment mixed with a complaint, suggesting that the officials are always willing to give a player the benefit of the doubt no matter what happens. But somehow, in the middle of all this, the real story became the word species instead of the shoulder that ended up in someone's ribs. A player was physically hurt on the court, yet the outrage quickly moved past that and focused on a coach expressing frustration over a missed call. You would think the headline would have been, "Aggressive play sends opponent to the locker room." Instead, the biggest controversy became the choice of words.
The same lunatics that get upset when a woman raises everybody up, right? Brings them from flying coach to private, selling out stadiums, everybody's getting paid more. That's good, right? The same league, right, that does all this crazy stuff, acting like they want to be subsidized by the NBA again. That same league will come after her if she doesn't apologize. But you know what? It'll never be enough. Because look at the comments. You have people that are not happy with it. That's why you don't apologize to the people. I understand you have to, but you never apologize to these people because it's never enough for them.
That's the moment everything changed. Once the internet grabbed onto the phrase protected species, Reese seemed to realize the story was no longer about Sabaly. It wasn't about the collision, the missed call, or anything that happened on the court anymore. The attention had shifted to her, and she was ready to make sure it stayed that way. What's interesting is that Reese didn't respond right after the game. She didn't say a single word. Instead, she waited, watched the reaction online, let the debate grow, and didn't join the conversation until about 4 hours later. That's more than enough time to see where public opinion is heading before deciding how to respond. When she finally spoke up, she tagged Sandy Brondello directly with a clown emoji. Then she began reposting messages claiming she was standing up for herself. That's how some people described it. Others argued it looked more like waiting until the crowd had already picked a side before stepping in. Rather than leading the conversation from the beginning, critics saw it as joining a fight after it had already started and then acting like she had been there from the start.
All right, here we go again. Angel Reese, professional WNBA player and professional victim, is insinuating that Sandy Brondello, a coach in the WNBA, called her a protected species because she's black. Okay, or at least, amplifying people. And obviously, she's insinuating that, right? Here's the thing. If you do any research, just a second, use your brain. Hey, instead of just being offended by everything, use your brain.
The league didn't waste any time either. Brondello was suspended for 1 game, fined, and ended up apologizing not once but twice. She even tried reaching Reese through the Dream's front office in an effort to speak with her directly. 2 separate apologies over a phrase that many people understood as meaning the referees tend to favor a player, yet Reese never responded. Here's where the narrative became more complicated. Temi Fagbennel, a black player on Brondello's own team, publicly called the suspension laughable. This wasn't a random person on social media. It was one of Brondello's own players, a black woman who looked at the entire situation and said there was nothing serious enough to justify punishing anyone. That's the kind of support you can't manufacture. And Reese never publicly addressed those comments.
Hello everyone, I'm sure everyone knows about the situation that happened last game, and I'm going to address this one time. First, I appreciate Sandy's apology, but I also appreciate the love and support that I have had for the last 48 hours. It has been very overwhelming with a lot of love and also other things, but I am grateful that the league did take action on what the situation had happened. There's no place for discrimination or hate in this league from anyone, from fans to coaches to players. And I'm just grateful that we are able to move on from the situation and just play winning basketball. The WNBA is supposed to be positive, and we are going in a great light right now. So I just want to continue that and move forward.
Because the league didn't waste any time either. Brondello was suspended for 1 game, fined, and ended up apologizing not once but twice. She even tried reaching Reese through the Dream's front office in an effort to speak with her directly. 2 separate apologies over a phrase that many people understood as meaning the referees tend to favor a player, yet Reese never responded. Here's where the narrative became more complicated. Temi Fagbennel, a black player on Brondello's own team, publicly called the suspension laughable. This wasn't a random person on social media. It was one of Brondello's own players, a black woman who looked at the entire situation and said there was nothing serious enough to justify punishing anyone. That's the kind of support you can't manufacture. And Reese never publicly addressed those comments.
Of course, Reese always has to be the victim. I mean, always. You never bend the knee to these race-baiting morons. She bent it. Here's what she had to say. Angel, I'm sorry. Last night in the emotion of the moment, after Naira's injury, I used a phrase that I shouldn't have used. Why? I'm reading the phrase to you. It's a figure. No. Calling a player protected species is common slang. It means the star player, dominant player, gets preferential treatment or better calls. Why should you not have used that? I mean, are you really that sensitive? Is it really that deep? The answer is no. You just need attention.
At some point, people start asking whether this is a recurring pattern or just an unusual streak of bad luck that seems to follow one player around the league. Because bad luck doesn't usually wait 4 hours to check social media before deciding how to react. But all the noise and controversy surrounding the dream for those 2 days didn't stop the schedule. The games kept coming whether the story had settled down or not. Just 2 days after being at the center of the controversy, Reese still had to step back onto the court for another game. The cameras were rolling, the box score was waiting, and this time there was nowhere to hide behind social media or a trending hashtag.
We know why she's doing this, but just remember, Sandy, that regular people, we understand that what you said, there was no malice.
July 19th brought the dream against the Chicago Sky, just 2 days after Reese had become the center of the controversy. Now it was simply Reese, a basketball, and a rim that didn't care about anything that had happened on social media. Let's read the stat line exactly as it was before adding any commentary. She finished 3 for 13 from the field with 8 points and 5 rebounds. That wasn't just a rough shooting night. It was a performance where the shots simply weren't falling, as she missed far more attempts than she made.
No wonder all 5 over 30.
We got rolling. What we got rolling? Hey, Reese, mouse in the house.
Oh,
Over the
easy.
top. Easy. Bloopy.
Ooh.
Damn.
And it's not like these were heavily contested shots. Many of them were wide-open looks with no defender within 5 feet. She had clean catches, good position, and the kind of opportunities every coach hopes for, but the ball just wouldn't go through the basket. Some shots were air balls, some bounced off the rim, some came up short, and others went long. It seemed like every kind of miss showed up in the same game, and Reese experienced all of them. At some point, you almost have to wonder if the rim just wasn't on her side because, judging by that performance, nothing seemed willing to fall. The irony wasn't lost on critics either. After all the talk about being treated differently, the only thing that mattered that night was whether the ball went through the hoop, and it simply didn't.
Angel Reese couldn't hit an elephant in the butt with a snow shovel. Damn. Couldn't hit an elephant in the butt with a snow shovel. Jeez. And you got fools claiming she's an MVP candidate. Damn. But she got 2 rebounds on that shot, man. That's awesome. Those basketball rims in Chicago are another species to make shots in. Oh, man. 2 bloopies in a row. Not surprised. Wow. Angel couldn't hit water if she jumped off a boat. Wow. Wow. Protected species. Oh, wow.
But the missed shots were only the beginning. Later in the game, Reese went up for a rebound with nobody touching her. There was no contact at all. She wasn't shoved, hooked, or undercut. She simply lost her balance and fell to the floor. The moment caught everyone by surprise, and you could hear the reaction from the crowd because there didn't seem to be an obvious reason for the fall. Then came the play that's likely to be remembered for a long time. Reese had a completely wide-open layup. There wasn't a defender within 10 feet, no contact, and nothing between her and the basket except open space. Then, without anyone touching her, her knee suddenly gave out. It wasn't caused by contact or an awkward collision. Her legs simply buckled on what should have been one of the easiest shots of the night. She couldn't finish the play, she couldn't finish the game, and she walked straight to the locker room while her teammates carried on without her.
WNBA will be changing both to kindergarten level for her next game. How can I distract from this? I know, tell everyone that Sandy Brondello made a racist comment. That's how you do it. That is exactly how you do it. How do I distract from my disaster classes? How do I distract from my disaster classes? Well, this is how you do it. This is how Angel Reese did it. Angel Reese blows the layup per usual, and then with her classic move, cries and undercuts Elizabeth Williams, claiming she was fouled.
Take a moment to think about that, because just 48 hours earlier, this was the same player standing in front of cameras upset over a coach using a sports phrase that many understood to mean the referees favored her. That was the issue at the center of the controversy. Then, only 2 days later, she suffered a non-contact knee injury on a play with no defender, no physical challenge, and no one else involved. She couldn't even complete a wide-open layup because her own knee gave out. Critics pointed to the timing and called it ironic. No referees, no coaches, no social media debate, just Reese, an open lane, and a knee that wouldn't let her finish the play. While all of that was happening in Atlanta, something much bigger was taking place in Indiana. Caitlin Clark faced Seattle and put together an incredible performance with 45 points and 10 assists, becoming the first player in WNBA history to record a 40-point, 10-assist double-double. That's not a milestone that had happened before. Clark became the first player ever to do it.
Point through the shot clock, at the logo. Step back, sidestep, three, left wing, good! Caitlin Clark, a Fever franchise record, 41 points. And the Fever lead by 3 with 38 seconds to go. Timeout, Seattle.
Clark also became the fastest player in WNBA history to make 200 career three-pointers. On top of that, she and Kelsey Mitchell combined for 75 points in the same game, setting a new Indiana Fever franchise record. Two players scoring 75 points isn't just a great performance. It's a duo showing just how explosive this offense can be on any given night. And notice what happened afterward. The conversation stayed focused on the basketball. Clark had the best game of her career, the records were broken, the points were scored, and people talked about what happened on the court. The story remained where it belonged, on the box score and on the performance itself. Here's the part that stands out if you look at it honestly. Clark faces more criticism than almost anyone else in the league. There have been hot mic moments, hard fouls that weren't called, and coaches taking shots at her in interviews, yet she keeps playing and lets her performance do the talking every time. Meanwhile, critics argue that Reese often finds herself at the center of controversy whenever the focus shifts away from her play. One player responds to pressure by making history. The other often ends up making headlines for reasons outside the game. That's a big reason why 2026 feels so promising for Indiana. You have Clark leading the offense, Aaliyah Boston controlling the paint, Kelsey Mitchell knocking down shots, Lexi Hull doing all the little things that people only notice when they're missing, and Sophie Cunningham adding the toughness this roster needed. This doesn't look like a rebuilding team anymore. It looks like a complete roster built around a superstar who lets her game speak louder than anything else.